welcome back to the Underdog Wealth Academy. Today I'm with Stratton Nielsen, and excited to have him on the show. Welcome, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad to be here, man.
Yeah. This will be fun. So a lot of my listeners are in the door-to-door industry, or they have been in door-to-door. And so if that's you, this will be a very relevant and awesome episode today. And even if you're not, I would argue that there will be a lot of nuggets shared today. Stratton's background is in psychology, and he's a therapist.
Yep.
He also worked in door-to-door sales. And so one of my favorite quotes is, "You are best positioned to serve the person that you once were." And so I love this idea of, I love that you worked in the space, because I feel like, I just imagine like a rep going and working with a therapist that hasn't done door to door, and just this weird, it's just this weird animal that probably a lot of therapists wouldn't know how to handle. So
Totally.
Anyway, I'm super excited to get into it today and chat and go deep on this.
Thanks,
I want to read a bio just to introduce you real quick.
Great.
And then obviously got lots of questions to go discuss today. So this will be fun. Stratton is a mental health therapist and mindset coach with 5 years of experience helping salespeople feel better so they can sell better. Prior to becoming a coach, Stratton sold pest control for 4 years. He combined his personal experience in door-to-door sales with his passion for spirituality and psychology to help salespeople have greater success, but more importantly, a new level of confidence and well-being. So awesome. Thanks again for being here, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Well, I guess, first, I could tell me a little bit about where you grew up and just some of the foundational years.
Cool.
And then we'll transition into kind of why have you chosen to go coach salespeople? I have some questions about that, but tell me about your upbringing, where you grew up, and all that stuff.
Awesome. So, grew up in Huntsville, Utah.
Okay.
Up by Pineview Reservoir.
Yeah.
And
north of Ogden.
Yep. Spent most of my time outdoors, either boating, at the beach, on the ski resort. It was just an awesome place to grow up.
Love it.
So really fell in love with the outdoors, and that's still one of my biggest passions, is just
Very
hiking and being outside.
Yeah, Utah's a good place to be for that.
Yes, it is. Growing up, I'm the oldest of 4 siblings, and had an amazing childhood and had a lot of hard stuff as part of my childhood. I had that weird experience of friends always came easy, being well liked always came easy as well. But then I always had these parts of me that I was hiding. I always felt like I had to keep certain things hidden, because if people found out, it would ruin everything, right? So I didn't have that courage just to be myself. And, some of those things is I really struggled with intense, I've always been very sensitive to my emotions.
Yeah.
And I feel things deeply. And as a kid growing up, that means a lot of times you feel like you're too much, you're too big, you're too loud. My siblings, I was the oldest too, so I felt entitled to have them obey.
Yeah.
Which led to a lot of conflict there.
Right.
So I was in trouble with my parents a lot for that. I had this medical condition where I wet the bed until I was 18 years old.
No way.
And it actually
often?
Oh yeah, pretty frequently. It got better and better, or I guess less and less frequent the older I got. But it almost prevented me from serving an LDS mission, actually.
Wow.
Kind of crazy. They take it really seriously. But it was just this condition that no one ever knew that growing up. Because the story my mind told me is, if anyone finds out about this, you're screwed.
Dang.
Your reputation's gone.
That's heavy.
All this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I carried this in the background. When I was 14, my parents got divorced.
Okay.
And so that rocked my world too, right?
Yeah.
Another thing that just, lots of emotions, didn't know how to handle them.
Yep.
And, I did the best that I could. Early on, one thing that influenced what I do today is early on, I had a friend. It was this girl that I had a crush on at the time, found out about my parents, and she sent me these scriptures. And the principle in the scripture was essentially that hard things are going to happen to you, but it's for your good. And that, at 14 years old, I don't know why, I don't know how, but it hit me to my core.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I just decided, I want to use all the hard stuff that happens to grow. Like it just woke something up in
Yeah.
me. And ever since then, it's always been really important for me to explore, like, what is the best mindset that I can possibly have, no matter what's thrown at me, no matter what's going on. What's the best mindset I can have? So that was a really huge part for me growing up.
Love that.
It helped that my dad was a motivational speaker. My mom was actually a therapist.
No way.
So I was really
That's cool. Well, you're probably a really cool makeup of like both of them, you know, because
I hope so.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah. So I was very much swimming in this water of psychology and personal growth.
Yeah.
Which I think gave me a really cool foundation to do what I do now. But I wasn't bulletproof. Like, we can go into this more later, but as I got into sales and other things, I saw really quick that like there was a lot of stuff I had not learned to deal with.
Yeah.
And it not knowing how to deal with it took me out. Yeah. And that was a whole journey.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like in life, it's this whole like I've figured it out thing can be pretty dangerous, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, my parents got divorced, so I figured out how to manage my emotions, and therefore, like, I'm going to be smooth sailing the rest of my life. You know,
exactly.
Like it's life has a way of keeping you on your toes, and it feels like every time when you finally learn to hit a curveball, then it's like, what about a knuckleball? What about a slider? Like, what about
That's so true.
It's
man.
just so interesting. I appreciate you sharing a couple of those things about your childhood. I mean, like, that stuff matters, right? Like, I had a couple things that came to my mind when you were talking. Like, I had my parents divorced when I was young, big time. Like, those types of things shape how you see the world. You know, I think when I started dating, it was like, I think some people go into dating where it's just like naively like, this thing's going to work out no matter what, just hit play. And I saw things a little bit differently because of my upbringing, right?
Yeah.
I had a tumor in my stomach when I was 14, and that was a huge trial. I had to go without food and water for a couple months and lost a ton of weight. And it's just some of those like perspective things that happen when you're young, like they are foundational, and they shape how you view the world, like transitioning into adulthood.
Yeah.
But again, it's like you can't go cling to those things. You have to continue to develop and put yourself in a place where you're ready for the next curveball, if you will.
Yeah.
So you served a mission for the LDS Church in Lima, Peru.
Yep.
How was that?
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was
cool.
amazing. That was one time where I was really grateful to have a dad that was a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
And he's also a therapist too.
Cool.
And so, I served when we couldn't call every week. So it was just the email, but
over word.
Yeah. But I would just, say, hey, here's what I'm struggling with. What's your thoughts? And he would give me these different, tools or techniques that I could use. And so, it was great.
Probably brings you close to your dad in that scenario, right? Because there's just this value gap of like, man, this man knows how to handle these things. And in a lot of ways draws you closer. That's really neat.
It was special that it got to be my dad.
Yeah.
And it was cool that he was one of the main people that taught me that it's not weakness to reach out.
Yeah.
It's not weakness to say, like on an email, hey, Dad, I'm struggling. Mm-hmm. And even though that felt vulnerable, even though there was a part of me that maybe wished I wasn't, that reaching out was actually strength, because then it gave me things that I could internalize and apply. And the cool part is now I've seen how that's helped me then share it with others.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing for my mission, is just learning that by me being vulnerable and asking for support, it actually was building me up to be able to give that to other people too.
Yeah. Very cool. That's awesome.
It was a great experience and crazy. I spent a good amount of time running from wild dogs.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Love it.
It was a good time.
That's awesome. Yeah. I served in Eastern Europe in Bulgaria.
Oh.
And same thing. There's a lot of like, I took my wife back like 6 or 7 years ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she was like, she had this thing on social media where she was like counting wild dogs and animals or like cats the whole time. She had like a cat counter so the people were like following along on social media. And I was like, Dave, there's some really cool things here. Like, that's what you're focused on, but that's awesome. That's so funny.
Yeah. My dog counter would have been through the roof.
Yeah.
In Peru,
yeah.
for sure.
That's so funny. That's awesome. So get home from your mission, you get into door-to-door sales.
Yeah.
Tell me about that experience. Obviously, nowadays you're coaching people that are in that industry.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of your time doing that. What are some of the things that, I guess, if you're focusing on that 4 years, like now you're coaching, what were there moments where you did you have some really hard moments in those 4 years that opened you up to wanting to do something like you're doing today? Or just tell me about your experience in door to door. Like, what did that look like? Tell me more about that.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So I got home from my mission, and, as it goes, a good buddy of mine reached out and was like, "Hey dude, come talk to, come go to lunch."
Yep.
And so I did. And it sounded awesome, right? Like I had heard of other people doing it and thought, hey, with the right company, with the right people, with the right product, I'd give it a shot. And so I did. And first year, it was so much fun on one hand.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, looking back, I realized like it really was so hard, because I was just dealing with, looking back now, I see that I was dealing with this constant pressure. It's kind of just this inside this underlying anxiety about, am I going to sell today?
Yeah.
And even when I'd have big days, okay, can I do that tomorrow?
Yeah.
What if I don't do that
tomorrow?
tomorrow?
There's all the games you play in your head.
The what ifs. Yeah. And and my mind would do that all the time. And so looking back now, I see that like I was having a lot of fun, but under the surface, I think there was just a lot of just chronic tension.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do with that. I was just using some different coping skills that I'd learned to help me manage it day by day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what helped me, get through that first summer and perform well.
Mm-hmm.
And, so then I continued my second year, recruited and co-managed a team, did the same my third year. And there were definitely just times throughout those years where, well, especially when I became a leader, that's when the pressure increased.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yeah.
It was like from, how am I doing to how's my team going to do?
Yeah. It's like times 100, because it's like you can, the first thing is figuring out my own emotions, which is it's a beast.
Yeah.
Like it's a really, really hard job. But then when you're responsible for other people, you can't control how other people are feeling.
Yeah.
And so now there's this like me wanting to control how they're feeling thing going on that's like super unhealthy.
Totally.
So you're saying first it was like, this, how do I manage my own emotions? Door to door is really hard. And then then the leadership thing was like a whole different animal. And that woke up something totally different even in you.
Yeah. On one hand, it was the pressure to take care of my team.
Yeah.
And looking back now, I see that I was taking their own happiness on myself. Right.
Yep.
And, surely I was micromanaging and stuff like that because of it. And then the other part too was now the pressure was, well, what if I don't sell well enough to have my team's respect? Or what if I don't sell well enough to have my leaders' respect, right?
Yep. I
was working towards becoming an equity partner at the time as well. And so just that pressure, and again, didn't really know what to do with it. The best thing I knew was I had a few coping skills that would help, like journaling and meditating. And that helped me manage it. And then, the other big one was that I'd always heard from everyone around me was just put your head down, just ignore it and go to work. And that worked really well until it didn't.
Yeah.
And it was in my fourth year after my fourth year of selling that all the years of just kind of pushing things down, not really looking at it, not knowing what to do with it, it finally caught up. And that was where I had my kind of what I would say my first like mental and emotional health crisis, right? Where I hit rock bottom, didn't know what to do. And that was pretty jarring.
Was that during your fourth summer or after?
It was, let's see, I'm going back in time. So you know what? It actually was, it started the end of my third year.
Okay.
I was managing a team in Chicago. And towards the end of the summer, I, for the first time, was feeling burnt out.
Yeah, like done.
Fatigued, which was weird. I'm a pretty energetic person,
Mm-hmm.
so it didn't make sense. Like, why am I so tired all the time?
Right.
And then I started learning about burnout and was like, man, this list, all the symptoms,
That's
like
me.
This is me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, but, you know, kept trying to just, hey, maybe it'll just get better if I just, you know, maybe ease up on my expectations a little bit and all that. And sure, you know, some of that helped. But then as the fourth year started picking up and it was recruiting season and things again, that pressure came back to the surface that I talked about. And it was around that time where all of a sudden I got shingles, which is like, you're not supposed to get that till you're like 80 years old, right?
Yeah.
And the doctor's like, this is stress related. And then, you know, soon after that, I start having panic attacks.
Wow.
And same thing. It was just all these signs that underneath the surface,
Something's not right.
Yeah. There was stress and there were all these emotions that I just wasn't dealing with because I didn't know how. I didn't know how to be aware of them. I didn't know what to do if I was aware of them. And so that is what led me to really go, wow, I won't be able to keep doing this unless I figure this out.
Yeah.
So that's where I really turned on my own journey of
Cool.
growth and healing.
Very cool. And I would imagine that gives you a strong, I mean, your mission nowadays, just knowing, you know, again, what you've been through, probably gets you pumped to get up in the morning and help others that are still in the arena, still in door-to-door sales, right?
Totally.
So tell me about, you know, how obviously at some point you did address those things.
Yep.
Tell me what that looked like. Like, tell me how did you overcome that hump? I know it's not a one, like I took this one pill or I did this one thing. Like I know it takes work, right?
Right.
The answer usually with this type of stuff is it's the unsexy truth of like, you got to put in the work.
Yeah.
But yeah, would love to hear kind of what worked for you to kind of get you to a place where you just felt like you were more emotionally, you know, in a good place.
Totally.
Did you stay in door-to-door? Did you pivot out of it and then just decide to start coaching at that time? Also, that's kind of maybe just kind of speak to both those thoughts. Like what
Cool.
worked and then what did that mean for you going forward, I guess?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, that's a great question. So what helped? So the first thing is I hired my own coach.
Okay.
And that was helpful. It started, you know, teaching me some different things about doing my own work. And then I ended up getting connected with my therapist, and she was incredible. She was very into meditation and kind of the Eastern tradition.
Yeah.
And so...
Which I kind of like some of that stuff. I feel like we don't have a lot of that going on over here. Yeah.
That's why I loved it so much.
Yeah.
It really resonated because I'm like, this is different.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of the other approaches are very heady, like think about this or, you know, journal this or that.
Yeah.
And the approach we worked on with her was very much more just slow down, get in tune with what's going on, right? Learn to be comfortable with it. So it was a very different approach, and I loved it. And I noticed that really early on with her. And that is what led me to, so I with her, she was having me meditate.
Okay.
And it was this practice of, you know, when she would basically say, hey, when that anxiety, when those panic attacks come, right now, the problem is that you're making them a problem. You're afraid of them. So when that anxiety's there, you start to get anxious about the anxiety.
Yeah.
And that's where the panic attacks come. So she says, see if you can change the way that you're relating to it, to instead of resisting it, you open to it. And every time it's there, you use it as almost like your sensei. You treat it like it's there to help you be more present, and it's there to help you learn to handle something intense. And like that approach was at first really scary because emotions are uncomfortable, right?
So is it, you know, like I think earlier on you led with this idea of like the hard things in life are happening for you, not to you. Like, is that kind of the first shift or the first understanding is just having perspective and understanding like these are emotions that we all have and it's just how I'm viewing them? Is that kind of the first hack?
I would say, yeah, I think it's definitely one of the first, because I think without that shift in perspective,
Mm-hmm.
then everything that's hard is a problem.
Yeah.
And everything that's uncomfortable is resisted.
Yeah.
Right? Why would you want that if you're just wanting things to be nice and pretty all the time? But I think with that perspective of, hey, I actually don't have control over what's happening here. Like, I'm experiencing life and it's unfolding, right? Just like it is here in my life as it is on planet Mars, like something way bigger than me is orchestrating all of this, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so what if instead of resisting what's going on, I just trust that, or if anything, not even trust. At first, I think is just accept that it is the way it is.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's like, so what do I want to do with it? And I think that is an important first step, right? Looking at like, how can I use these hard things to evolve?
Yeah.
Which is cool because that's how evolution actually happens.
Yeah, and that's why we're here. Like, that's literally the purpose of why we exist.
Totally.
So in some ways, it's beautiful. It's like, you know, taking a deep breath and just like, this is why I am here, is to feel these feelings. And if I react to them properly, then it will be for my, you know, this will help me progress and become better. Like,
totally.
Yeah. That's, you know, that's the whole mission. So I think that's beautiful. That's really awesome. So you started to find some success working with this therapist.
Right.
And then kind of where did things go from there?
Well, so then what happened is one night I'm laying in bed and I could feel, this anxiety would just kind of come out of nowhere. And I could feel it starting to come up and I could feel some of the panic starting to come up. But it was one of the first times that instead of me just getting totally lost in that, all the practice I'd been doing in meditation, it paid off. Like in that moment, it had been helping all along the way, but in that moment, it was so clear to me that I was just observing the anxiety and I was just observing the panic. It wasn't me. I didn't actually have to do anything about it. And that was huge because when I was identified with the anxiety, I'd feel it and then I'd have to do something about it.
Yeah.
I'd have to listen to whatever it was saying. But when I realized, like, wait a second, no, it's just like a cloud passing through the sky. And the sky is my awareness. Like, I'm just aware that this anxiety is happening. It was the coolest thing because I just got to watch it with curiosity. And it lasted for, I don't know, I didn't time it, but maybe a couple minutes, maybe a couple seconds. But then it went away. And it was the first time that I could clearly say, like, I just totally handled the most intense panic and anxiety. And if I can handle that every time it comes up, then is it really that big of a deal? Totally changed how I was relating to those those emotions. And so that little nugget, that realization that I was the observer of those emotions, of those thoughts, that is what saved me. So it continues to help me today. Like, the funny thing is, you mentioned earlier, like, there's no pill that we can take and all of a sudden it's better. Yeah. So, like, everything, all the insecurities, all the things that have made me anxious my whole life, I still notice all those in here. Yeah. Like, before coming and doing this with you, totally felt nervous and felt all those things. So none of that has, like, disappeared. Right. It's just how you handle it. Yes. But what's changed is all the things that I used to be uncomfortable with and closed off to, I'm now comfortable with. Love it. Yeah. I'm okay feeling. Yeah. You've just built the muscle. Totally. You've built the muscle to be able to withstand those things. And, like, it's life. Like, a lot of these things are unavoidable. Yeah. Especially if you're going to go put yourself out there and try to become someone or do something in life. Like, if you sit in a dark room, like, it's like, you're not going to deal with a lot of resistance, but if you're trying to go get stuff done in life, then some of these things are unavoidable. So I love the idea that, like, I'm observing this happening, and just having proper perspective, I think is a beautiful thing that a lot of people have a hard time with. And I think that's so cool that you found your way working with a professional
to get kind of to the other side of that, or find frameworks that help you. So at some point, it feels like you made a pivot from, I'm in this industry and now I want to go help others with all these frameworks, right?
Yes.
So like, what did that look like?
Yes, totally. So can I share one thing
Please, yeah.
that kind of fits right in between those?
Yeah.
This just feels really important to me right now. That realization that night was huge and it was helpful. Mm-hmm. But really all it did is it oriented me in the right direction to continue growing and healing. And the direction it pointed me to, as I kept exploring some of these Eastern wisdom traditions, is I realized, and I've now seen it all over Western traditions. It's in Christianity, it's everywhere.
For sure.
Right? Jesus says the kingdom is within you.
Yeah.
Right? And there's all these different traditions that all say the same thing. And that thing is that we are not our mind. We are not the thoughts and emotions that we experience in this body. We are the observer of them. And, science calls that consciousness. Mm-hmm. Religion calls it spirit, soul, Atman. Mm-hmm. They all have different names. Mm-hmm. But essentially it's that idea that who we really are is not the thought or the feeling. Who we really are is the one experiencing those thoughts and feelings. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds just like words and abstract.
So what's the difference?
So the difference is if I am just experiencing the thoughts and emotions, then I don't have to listen to everything they say. So if my mind, for example, in door to door, if I get dropped off in an area and my mind looks at that and says, oh, there's no way I'm going to get cells here. Yeah. If I have not realized that my mind just thinks and I'm not choosing those thoughts, I just listen to that. Yeah. And I'm going to sit on the curb, or I'm going to call my manager to come get me. Right. Yeah. But instead, if I'm aware that that's just my mind thinking, that's just thoughts, I can just let those pass by. I don't have to give it the time of day.
Love that.
And that's cool. Right.
Yeah. But the problem is people think a thought and then all of a sudden it's like, that's where my convictions lie.
Exactly.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because I do it even to this day. That's really cool. That puts into words like something I believe in big time, but I just have never really known how to articulate that. But it's like that I have thoughts all the time, and I'm like, that wasn't me.
Exactly.
In a lot of different arenas of my life, right? Yeah. Like on the doors, I'll have a sissy thought about that's scarcity, not abundant at all, or about a person or whatever, right? Yeah. Some of our thoughts are so uncontrollable. Men are dumb.
There's some thoughts we don't want anyone to know.
Yeah, thank heavens, not everyone can see every single thought I have, right? Yeah. But I love that. That I'm gonna let that thought float right by. Yeah. And that one isn't me.
Totally.
And then I'm gonna kind of choose the ones that I like and that I want to integrate into kind of my identity or whatever, right?
100%.
Yeah.
And what I offer to guys that work with me is, when they come and tell me, hey, my mind's just driving me crazy. Yeah. One of the things we'll talk about is, well, how do you know? How do you know that? What do you mean? Well, you just told me that your mind is driving you crazy. How do you know that? Well, because it is. I know, but how do you know? And what I'm pointing to, and eventually where we get is, well, because I'm aware that my mind's doing that. Mm-hmm. So the work, what helped me is realizing, wait, we don't even necessarily need to change the mind. I realized I don't need to make my mind not be anxious. I just need to connect more with the part of me that's aware that it's anxious rather than getting all lost in the anxiety. Mm-hmm. And what I found is that underneath the anxiousness, underneath the thoughts is just this peace. There's just this confidence. The way that I view it is that's my soul. And when I'm connected at that level, my mind, it can be, a nuclear disaster up there. Yeah. And I can be okay. I can just let even the most intense thoughts just pass by, just like I would one about my area. Yeah. So it's so cool. And that is now connecting to, okay, how did I pivot? Yeah. Well, I started applying this in my own life and my meditation increased. I was meditating an hour a day. And that's continued ever since, because now it's just how can I not? And I just kept, deepening this practice and realizing like, man, if I would have had this back when I was selling, this would have changed everything. It would have helped me better deal with that chronic tension I had. It would have helped me deal with the insecurities, all of it. And that was where it was that going into that 5th summer that I was like, dude, what if there was a company out there that if I approached them and said like, hey, let me be like what a sports psychologist is for athletes.
Which nowadays is huge.
It's mandatory.
Yeah, it's like literally probably 30 years ago, no one had one.
Totally.
Or whatever. But nowadays, like, you know, every important sports team has multiple of them on payroll, and they're, you know, a couple $1 million worth of, like, there's big investments.
Yeah.
Like the ROI is very obvious, right?
Yeah.
So that's so cool. So you saw a pain point because you experienced it yourself.
Yes.
And decided to go create a company around that.
Yes.
And so now your full-time gig is coach salespeople. The thing I love even about your bio is just like, again, it's not run from your problems or let's go take some weight off this barbell. Like, it's the weight is inevitable. Let's go help you learn how to lift that and get results. Like, be happy and sell well.
Absolutely.
Super, super cool. I guess a question I have is, you know, so I love these thoughts you're sharing in terms of just like, you know, people learning how to manage their emotions. How can a rep? So I guess the 3 places I think of is like in the off season. That's 1. 2 is in the summer on the doors, like the thoughts that I'm having, and then another is like in the summer off the doors. What are when you're you know, coaching or teaching, like, just what are some of the nuggets that you're sharing with your people that they can go do in terms of mastering their mental game in any of those 3 areas? Just whatever comes to your mind there.
Yeah, totally. So the game I like to play is, I kind of view it, there are 3 different games we can play.
Okay.
1 is avoiding and distracting, right? There's a lot of that. There's lots of just suppressing. There's lots of pornography. A lot of guys I work with, it's helping them with gambling addictions. Like, there's all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Ways that we just avoid what's inside.
Yeah. I was gonna say that. Like, it feels like a lot of the things, I've heard some pornography experts and just addiction experts talk really similarly to how you are. Or how you were with what you kind of like, some of those things that you shared. So I wondered if there's some of that that's connected here.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the whole, like, if we really boil it down, the only problem in life is, or the only reason there's ever suffering is because we don't like how what's happening is making us feel.
Yeah.
If we were always totally okay with how whatever's happening makes us feel, why would there ever be a problem?
Yeah.
There would never be, right? Like, life happens, it makes us feel a certain way, and we don't like it.
Yeah, there would be no use for stimulants or you know, these big dopamine hits or like, I got to go get this or that to be able to survive through this. Like, there would just be no need for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, have you heard people say, I just need to take the edge off?
Right.
Well, in that scenario, what edge?
Right.
There wouldn't be an edge because everything would just be okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we'd like everything the same, right? We wouldn't like when our pet dies like we would like when we get a new puppy.
Right.
They're different in how they feel.
Yeah.
But if we could handle either one and all the emotions, then it would just be experiencing life.
Yeah.
Suffering comes when we start to say, I like this and I don't like this. And then distraction comes when we say, I don't like this, I need to get rid of it. Right? So you're right. We wouldn't need the pornography. We wouldn't need the drugs. We wouldn't need that if we didn't have any problem just handling and feeling.
Yeah, our emotions.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so you shared number 1.
That's the first game. Second game is then we often get into, well, let's change our mind, right? So this is kind of the realm of positive thinking, of affirmations, of which they're all great. But I want to make it clear too, each of these games has a time and place. There actually is a time where healthy, intentional distraction can be a really good thing.
Sure.
If we're dealing with emotions that we haven't handled before, it might be wise to let ourselves kind of get a breather and then come back to it, right?
I'd love to hear just a quick example of like 1 and 2. Like,
okay,
meaning like spell it like maybe use an addiction or use something as an example and just like what that looks like.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it this way. Let's say that we're talking about a rep who had.
Yeah. Let's use door to door. Cause
Great.
I want this to be kind of tailored to them. So let's say on the doors, what does number 1 look like? What does number 2 look like?
Cool. So let's say we'll do how about we do a case study for the same guy in each game.
Perfect.
Oops.
That's great.
We'll see. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
So let's say that there's a guy who has big goals for the summer. Let's say it's midsummer, and this might be when some people are listening to this. So midsummer, and it's very clear that they're far away from that goal.
Yep.
For a lot of guys, that brings up feelings of discouragement, inadequacy, anxiety, right?
Yeah.
So in game 1, what that would look like for, let's say, rep number 1 is they would go, and it's not really consciously. It's not like they would consciously go, man, I'm feeling all these things, and I'm going to go, I'm going to go smoke some marijuana, or I'm going to go, look at pornography or whatever.
Right.
And again, if those things are in their value system, great.
Sure.
I'm talking about when it's compulsive, when it's unconscious, and they're doing things that actually don't align with their values, right? That rep, because there's so much going on and they're not aware of it, almost unconsciously, they're just naturally going to go to these things
to escape.
That escape.
Okay.
Yes, because they have to. There's just too much going on in there, right?
Yeah.
So when what's inside feels unsafe, we'll turn to something that feels safer. So that's rep number 1, right? They avoid all that stuff by every night coming back and using some escape method.
Yeah. Okay.
Game number 2, or rep number 2, is same scenario, same feelings, but they go, you know what? I have some influence on this, right? Like I notice all this anxiety about, I'm not going to hit my goal. What are people going to think of me? All this. So they're a little bit more aware of what's in there and willing to look at it. And so then they go, I'm going to think more positively, right? So when they notice the thought, what's my team going to think of me? What they might do is they might go, well, 5 years from now, is it really going to matter what my team thinks of me this summer? Is that what's most important? And if not, what is? And they might go, what's most important isn't that I hit that huge goal, isn't what my leader thought of me. It's that I gave my absolute best this summer. That's what matters. See, now they're in a totally different headspace than they were before that. Yeah. Right? So that's game 2, where it's acknowledging that we do have power in here to influence our thoughts and our emotions. And I have played that game a lot. I think in the right time and place, it's amazing. But what are
the drawbacks there? What are the negatives with that one? Because that one sounds pretty good to me.
Right. And I think that's usually the one we stop at.
Yeah.
Because it does sound good. It does feel good too. The drawback is that I'm still at the level of my mind. To put it more clearly, I'd say I'm still conditional to how my mind is doing. So how I'm feeling on the inside depends on whether my mind is positive or negative, right?
Got it.
And the cool thing that I learned is, although like you can play that game, it's just if you're dependent on where your mind's at, you have to be really vigilant. And you have a 24/7 job to constantly change all those thoughts and those emotions.
Yeah.
So game 3 was what I discovered that night and have practiced ever since, which is we can learn how to connect to the part of us that is bigger than our mind, that's bigger than our thoughts, that is just capable of observing it, so that my mind can be saying the same things, right? What's my team going to think of me? I'm not going to hit my goal. What about this? What about that? And I don't need to distract from it. I also don't have to change it. It's not that I can't. It's just I don't have to. I simply acknowledge it like I would a cloud in the sky. And it's almost like, silly mind.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry you have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't pull my attention out of the present moment. So instead, I'm able to just be present and give my best on that next door, for example.
So just, to me, it's like just being fully present.
Yeah.
Like Craig Manning, have you read his book, The Fearless Mind?
I have read parts of it.
Okay.
I think it's sweet.
I think it's a great book. And
Yeah.
I don't know what that one you just shared for me, like, makes me think of that book, which is just this idea of, like, most of the time fear is based in the past or in the future, but it's not like, if we're just like fully honest about what this moment is, like you were saying earlier, like there's no reason usually to have to be fearful, you know,
So true.
unless it's like tiger is, you know, there's a freaking wild animal that's like literally chasing me. But like most of the time it's just like I'm usually feeling what I'm feeling because of something that happened to me growing up, or some weird like thing based in the past that really doesn't impact now.
Yep.
Or some future event that I'm like creating in my mind that's like probably not even gonna happen. Let's be honest.
Yep.
And then I'm like thinking about that and interpreting the present based off of that thing. And so anyway, I think that's a really neat thought. One of my kind of last questions I have for you is just like, I've made jokes all the time, like, cause I've been in door to door for 8-9 years now, manage a couple hundred reps. Like it's a big job. And like, even just before you came in here, it was like, I got a call from a rep and he's struggling, and it's you know, it's like kind of what you were describing. We're a month or two into summer and I'm not on pace for my goals and all that stuff. And sometimes I make jokes. Like, I wish I would have gone the therapy route. I feel like I would have been more qualified to do my current job than like studying marketing at BYU, which was like a pretty awesome degree and whatever. But like, so like, I think your background is awesome and totally qualifies you to go coach people like that, first of all. But my question is like, what are leaders, like unqualified leaders like myself, that don't have that, you know, those credentials or whatever, but have made commitments and have stewardship, right, over people. And like, it means a ton to me to try my very hardest to be that person that they need me to be, or to help them with what they need help with. What are leaders doing? I'm going to ask it this way. Like, what are leaders doing wrong in door-to-door sales? Like, what are the one or two things that they just need to maybe rethink in terms of how they're helping their reps? Because not every single rep can afford a coach like you, or can go. I can't go hire a personal coach for all of my reps, right? So I would just love to hear, like, for the leader that's trying their best, like, what are maybe some thoughts on that?
That's a really solid question, first of all.
Yeah.
Because I just imagine, just going back to when I was in those shoes, and I imagine the leaders out there right now that, like, I think you described it well, that on one hand, there's just that sincere desire to, I want to give these guys the best that I can.
Yeah.
But then there's also just that feeling, that gap of like, but how?
Yeah.
How? I've never been trained to do that.
Because I would argue, sorry to cut you off, but like that number 2 that you mentioned is usually what I feel. Even myself, you fall into this trap of like, write down what you're grateful for. Yeah. What are the affirmations? Yeah. In 5 years, you'll regret it if you're soft and don't work hard today. Totally. Like, to be honest, that's probably that's how I operate. It's a lot of that.
Yep.
Which obviously, like, with the best intentions and just trying to help people, right? Yes. But as a leader, how do you go help people access that other one?
Yeah. Well, I guess the first thing that's coming up for me right now is I just want to reemphasize how that game number 2 is actually awesome.
Sure.
Like it truly, in no way am I trying to set up like there's a good, better, best
got
here.
It. Okay, got it.
It's more of they're different games to be used at different times.
Okay.
What I have found is that game number 3 can kind of become the foundation for all of them. Because when you start playing that game, you start getting more space from your mind. Mm-hmm. Your inner state just becomes less roller coastery, right? Yeah. It's less conditional on how your mind or your emotions are doing. So that's why I think it's a great starting place, because it's like, hey, if we can help you start to get some space, now it's going to be a lot easier for you to change thoughts and to do things, right?
I like it.
So I actually think for you or any other leaders, I would say game number 2 is awesome. Okay, what's coming up for me though is I truly think the I mean, you said, what are they doing wrong? I don't.
Yeah, like,
did you have something else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I want. No, you're good. Go ahead.
What I don't know if there are really like universal things that I can point to that I'd say they're doing wrong. The only thing that's coming to mind though is with a lot of the leaders I work with, a common denominator that I'm seeing is there's this tendency to get so absorbed in the hustle and the busyness and the constant calling this rep, calling that rep, calling.
Yeah.
That there's no space for stillness.
Got it.
There's no space for them to actually play that third game.
Yeah.
Where they connect to who they truly are.
Yeah.
Like that true self, capital S.
Yeah. That
can notice all the stress about what about this, what about that, what about that, but then can just be centered.
Yeah.
And know that it's okay. Like you said, right now in this moment, it's okay.
It's so good because I think we always teach at our company the first sale of the day is yourself. And then the second sale of the day is your team.
Yeah.
And then the third sale of the day is, customer facing, like actually going and creating customers, but as a leader, right? And I think that's awesome. So true. I just think that like, and I've seen it in myself, and I actually do think that's one area of my life I've made improvements in the last year or so is like carving out some space for me to just like go fill my cup.
Yeah.
Like go fill the cup. And because then you have like something to go give. And I think in our industry, there's so much of like react to this phone call, that phone call, wake up first thing in the morning. My phone has 50 text messages. Like I got to go hit all these people back because that's my job. And it's just so much of that like, of course, there's people that are like struggling when their whole, like there's no filling the cup. It's just all like give.
Yep.
And so I think that's a really great thought. I'm glad that was kind of the thought that you came up with. I guess one of my last questions is, I guess I'd love to hear your thoughts on spirituality. Spirituality was part of your bio and just the importance there. How important is spirituality, whatever it might be, right? I'm LDS. Like I know you served a mission.
Yep, I am as well.
But tell me about your take on that. Just like where does spirituality fit into this stuff?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is from my view, I need to separate religion and spirituality.
Got it.
Because, religion is more about the different beliefs or concepts about where we come from, where we're going, all that.
Yeah.
And all that's awesome. Spirituality is really, to put it simply, spirituality is asking the question, who am I in here? Who am I that was in this body when it was a 5-year-old body?
Yeah.
And now it's a 30-year-old body.
Yeah.
Who am I that, I used to have 10-year-old thoughts.
Yeah.
That I was aware of. And now I have different thoughts, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at is like my body has changed, my thoughts have changed, my emotions have always changed, right? Sometimes they're really high, sometimes they're low.
Yeah.
I'm always in here though.
Yeah.
And spirituality asks, well, then who am I? And that's what religion tries to answer with the beliefs, right?
Sure.
Well, here's who you are, here's where you came from, and all that's great.
Yeah.
But spirituality is just the simple experience of I'm in here and I'm aware of what I feel through this body, of my senses. I'm aware of thoughts and emotions. And in my experience, the more connected I am to spirit, to the moment, the more something bigger than me is able to come through me in the moment. And that would also connect to what you asked earlier about leaders. I would say the more they find time to be still and to connect to themselves, the more they'll find in those moments when reps are reaching out and they do need to engage, that something much wiser and bigger than them will help them. And they'll find themselves saying things or asking questions that they haven't been trained to,
Yeah.
that they didn't know how to. But after that call, they'll go, where did that come from? And 2, they'll be surprised by how that rep was like, that's exactly what I needed to hear.
Yeah, that's really cool. I was actually listening to this last night. Mel Robbins, who wrote Let Them, I think it's called.
Yeah.
I think she has a podcast. And anyway, it was like an Instagram video that I watched last night of her talking with a person about how spirituality literally, like they did a test, and the more spiritual someone is, like it literally changes your brain structure as well.
Yeah.
Like thickens it.
Yeah.
And, which like, yeah, no duh, you know, like from an evolution standpoint, it's just like when we're connected with ourselves, we're just like building this strong fortification, you know, against like all things that happen in life. And we're more now prepared to go and help others and help ourselves through life. And so, I love this idea of just carving out time for ourselves and understanding that in sales, like one of my favorite definitions of sales is that it's the transfer of energy. And when I have none, I have none to give. And so, and whether that's to customers on the doors, it's to my people, I've got to go get that figured out myself before I can go and like add value to others. So I love that thought. Any other thoughts from you that I haven't kind of asked about, or just any other nuggets? This has been awesome, man. I think that there's a lot of really helpful thoughts that have been shared that, you know, listeners will grab a bunch of value from. But anything else, any other thoughts before we close up?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for your questions.
Yeah.
And thanks for just creating the space for conversations like this in door to door and just in life in general.
Yeah.
Because they don't happen all that often.
Yeah.
You know, so I really appreciate that.
For sure.
I would say, you know, one invitation would be just to find practices that help you be more aware of what's going on inside. I've found for me the most helpful one, I've just come to call it stillness. It's not like meditation where you're focusing on your breath, or it's nothing that has like a specific agenda. It's you simply sit still for a designated amount of time. I usually recommend guys start out about 5 minutes. Could be 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. But you sit still and you just practice being aware of what's happening. And that's it. You just practice noticing.
Are you letting your mind run or no?
You let your mind do whatever it wants to do.
Yeah.
You let it go, and it will. It'll go crazy.
Yeah.
And here's the cool thing. Sometimes guys will come back and go, dude, I couldn't do it. My mind was just so busy.
Right.
And I go, wait, you noticed that your mind was so busy?
That's good. Yeah.
You just succeeded.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what do you mean? All I asked you to do was just notice.
Yeah.
That's it. So all you're supposed to do is sit there and just realize, like, what is my mind doing? What are my emotions doing? What do I notice physically? Right? Essentially, you're just practicing being present completely with total acceptance for whatever's happening. 2 things happen when you do that. Number 1, everything that's going on in the moment, you're practicing being more comfortable with. So just like a cold plunge, right now, 99.9% of us, we are not comfortable with our mind racing.
Yeah.
But you can learn to be comfortable with that. You can learn to be so still that even when your mind is going through all these other things, you just notice, oh, there's my mind doing that. But you're still present. And so the more you practice being aware, the easier it becomes to just be aware without getting sucked into it.
Yeah.
But the second thing that happens, and this happens naturally all on its own, is you slowly start to gain an awareness of the fact that I'm not this mind that's racing. I don't know exactly who or what, but all I know is I'm aware that like I'm in here and I'm just here. And so you simultaneously become more capable of handling whatever's getting triggered inside you, while at the same time becoming more rooted in who you are as the observer.
Yeah.
That would be my one invitation. Is it takes literally 5 minutes a day. Obviously more is better, but for you to start not well, not only changing your mind, but changing your relationship with your mind.
Yeah.
So that'd be my invitation.
Way cool.
And then, yeah, do you have any thoughts
No, I'll just
on
share
that?
in 2025, like that's huge. Like in this day and age, like no one's doing that, especially in Western culture.
I know.
Like no one's
So
doing that.
busy.
Dude, it's nonstop. It's, take a work call, scroll Instagram, answer a question from my spouse, my kids yelling. Like it's just chasing the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. It's just like nothing ever shuts off while we're awake. And I just love this idea of like filling the cup. I'm going to go fill the cup.
Yeah.
I think that's neat. So more of that.
And, something I'd add to that analogy that's interesting, and I promise it'll make more sense if you actually practice what we've talked about today.
Yeah.
In my view, the cup is actually already full.
Love that.
Who we really are, it's just a full cup. And that's because of where we come from or who we come from.
Mm-hmm.
The problem isn't that the cup is empty. The problem is that we are so distracted from that fullness that we feel like it's empty. So in my experience, it's never been about filling a cup up. It's been about letting go of everything that ever made it feel empty.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, there's a perfect God that made us in a perfect way, and like I think that's awesome. I think that we just need to access that and see it the right way. I think that's right. That's great, dude. So cool. Well, thank you for being here. This has been fun.
Thank you, man.
I guess in closing, tell us a little bit more about your business and just like what you do, and
Cool.
just plug it. I think that there will be a lot of people listening that this would be a pretty cool option for. So
Cool. Okay. So I offer some team packages where I have a course. It's called the Optimal Sales Mindset. It's created for team correlations.
Mm-hmm.
So once a week, teams watch and go through that course together. And there's just a short training video and then some discussion questions. And it's all aiming teams towards having an optimal mindset while they're selling.
Cool.
So that's one option for teams. The main thing I do, though, is I work with guys one-on-one through coaching packages. And I've got different options that, they kind of range in terms of how much time you'd like or how much work you'd like to do, from less to more intense.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, in those one-on-one packages, I help sales reps identify their specific barriers, the inner barriers that are preventing them from feeling their best or selling their best. And then together we work through those. And those packages come with sessions, and they come with other cool things like daily mindset messages.
Cool.
Just things I've designed to help guys be in the best place that they can. And if people are interested in that, obviously they can reach out to you, right? If they're affiliated with your company or else or otherwise. But the other place they can go is optimalsalesmindset.system, systeme.io.
Cool.
Currently transitioning it from that to optimalsalesmindset.com.
Cool.
But I'm like literally in the process of that.
That's great. Well,
that's
we'll
where they
update the
go.
link if that happens. Cool. So that's great.
Yeah, but they
Cool,
can go
man.
there, and any questions, I would love to talk more with them.
Cool. I know I have a rep that's working with you right now, and we, I believe big time that 80% of sales is your mindset and just like understanding these things, right? Yeah. It's a huge part of it. So I love what you're doing. I think you're impacting, people in a beautiful way, and keep it up, man. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Thanks everyone for listening. Tune in next episode. Thank you.